this off, I always give a brief overview of the Giants units. And we start off with this really, really high level view of it, where you get to see sort of the whole big picture. And then we'll drill
Okay.
down into individual units. Now, we run these in what we like to call a just in time format, which means basically just around the time you're like, oh, I'm getting to the end of these units. That's usually the indicator that, hey, another rollout is coming. So, we chunk these in about 6 week intervals and we try to roll out about 6 weeks worth of stuff. And that works for the most part. So tonight we're actually going to be doing 2 units because the first 2 units are relatively short. So as far as Giants goes, Giants is an open source, that picture should go away. There we go. Giants is an open source curriculum. It is free and completely customizable, so you can take as much from these units as you want, and use them in your class, and you can mix it up with your own stuff as you go as well, because some of you have some of that. Some of you have some stuff that you've used over the years, and if the wheel isn't broken, why try to fix it? And as far as fifth grade goes, this is kind of an overview of your year. We've got a grand total of 7 units that are spread out. And each of these bars tells you roughly about how much time you should be spending on each unit. For the most part, they're usually around 6 weeks. You can see these first two are short, but they add up to about 6 weeks. And then you have this big long bar here that stretches a lot longer than the rest of those. If you're a US history aficionado, that's our Revolutionary War unit. We
Mhm.
tend to spend a lot of time there. So that's a slightly bigger unit, but for the most part, each unit is roughly 6 weeks of instruction, aside from these first two that go together. And you'll see as we go through, there are multiple lessons in each one, but there's usually only about three. So if I click, for example, if I go into Unit 2 here, and I will put the link to where to find this in the chat in just a minute. But if I go to Unit 2 here, you're going to see a unit overview and 3 lessons. Most of these units have 3 lessons. Unit 1 actually only has one, and it doesn't even have a unit overview. It just has the lesson itself because it's really a foundational unit. Like, how do we study social studies? It doesn't even cover any fifth grade content. So we'll get into the ins and outs of that for a minute. But basically, to access the Giants units, you are going to go to the website that I'm about to drop in the chat here, and it's www.misocialstudies.org. And then it includes a giantshome.html. And you're going to want to bookmark this page. It's going to be your best friend, both as a fifth grade teacher and someday if you ever change grade levels. You can see we've got some Giants for K2. We've got it all the way up through 8th grade at this point in time. So if you ever change grade levels, just know we've got your back, unless you end up in the high school. Those are the grade levels we haven't developed yet. So basically, if you hover your mouse over the grade level that we're looking at, which today is 5th grade, you hover your mouse over and you can see a pacing view and each individual unit. I wish I could program the website so that these are all clicks, like you click on 5th grade and it brings that up. But unfortunately, the software that I use to program the website, that is beyond its capabilities. So you hover over your grade level and then you're able to choose whichever unit it is that you're looking at. And those you can click on. So when I click on Unit 1, for example, you can see you've got a unit overview and lesson 1. I'm actually going to go into Unit 2 for this, though. Your unit overview is your bird's eye view of the unit as a whole. So it's where you're going to find your content expectations. It's where you're going to find the skills that we practice from the C3 framework. It's where you're going to find literacy connections. So if your principal is one of those that we have in a lot of elementary buildings where they're like, yeah, you teach social studies, wink, wink. Because we do spend still in even in 5th grade a lot of time with that literacy block. You're able to actually show with the unit overview page some connections to your Common Core state standards for ELA. We link whenever possible to like the literacy essentials and all these other things that you hear about. So we've done a lot of work to make sure that these align to your social studies standards, but also provide some natural fits and extension to your ELA block, sometimes your science block, and sometimes your math block. It just depends on the just depends overall on the unit and the activities. When you're done looking at your unit overview, because you're not really going to live there, where you're going to live are in the individual lessons. And you can see with unit 2, we've got 3 of them. A good rule of thumb is to divide the number of lessons in a unit by the number of weeks our pacing view says it should take. And what you run into with a 6-week unit is roughly each lesson should take about 2 weeks. It could be north or it could be south of that. We also try to take into consideration that in elementary, hours are longer in certain schools and shorter in others. So there's a lot of customizable parts to Giants that we've got for you that hopefully will make your job a little bit easier. And then in the lesson itself is where you're going to find a step-by-step guide. We are not like MC3, where they basically tell you everything you need to do. Like step 1, greet your students as they walk in the door. Step 2, develop a seating chart. Like we know you guys know how to do that stuff already. So we give you the gist. This is a paragraph, 2, sometimes 3 or 4, that's basically talk about, okay, what are we doing? What does this look like? Why are we doing this activity? And then in the far column, anything that we reference is here for you. So you're going to find PowerPoints here already made for you, including some that you're going to get to experience tonight. You're going to find activities that are already made for you. You're going to find links to a online textbook here, should you choose to use them. And I'm going to get into that in just a sec because that's the next agenda item. But everything that you need that is referenced over here to teach them is already made and ready to go. They are Google Docs. They play nicely with Google Classroom. They play nicely with Schoology. They play nicely with whatever learning management system you might be using with kids. So if you are digital in your classroom, all of this stuff should work nicely with whatever it is that you're using. And if you need, excuse me, if you need any help troubleshooting any of that, I can very easily, we can easily help you in that 6:30 to 7:30 block. A lot of you are Wexford teachers. I can come out to you. We can connect via your prep period if you're not a Wexford teacher. So whatever you need, just let us know as we go through these. And we're going to dive a little further into individual units and those lessons in a minute. But as far as the bird's eye overview goes, what questions might you have for me that I can answer right now?